There's a Boy in the Girls' Bathroom, Chapter 33. Bradley was terrible. He dribbled with two hands, he passed the ball to people who weren't on his team, but worst of all, whenever anyone passed the ball to him, he said thank you. He never shot at the basket, he didn't dare. Finally, after his team was losing 28-6 anyway, everyone told him to try a shot. He looked around for someone to pass it to. Jeff sat down so Bradley wouldn't pass it to him. Just shoot, he said. The rest of his team sat down too. Shoot it, they said. Everybody on the other team sat down too. Shoot the ball! Bradley faced the basket. His tongue slipped out the corner of his mouth as he carefully aimed, then threw the ball high in the air. He hit the back of the rim, bounced against the backboard, then dropped through the net. Great shot, said Jeff. Way to go, said Andy, patting him on the back. At first he couldn't believe it, but then he saw Carla's book lying on the ground at the base of the basket. No wonder, he realized. Everyone headed for the water fountain. Bradley went along too, even though he wasn't thirsty. But then, once he got there, he realized he was thirsty. He just hadn't noticed. Good game, Bradley, said Brian. You just have to stop passing to people who aren't on your team, said Dan. Maybe you should give the rest of us on your team black eyes too, said Robbie. Then you'll know who to pass to. Everyone laughed, even Bradley. He and Jeff were the last two left at the water fountain. Everyone else had already started back to class. As they drank, their eyes met and they broke up laughing. How did you get the black eye? Bradley asked after he stopped laughing. Melinda, said Jeff. Bradley nodded. She's strong, he said. Oh boy, you can say that again, said Jeff. They laughed again. My book, Bradley suddenly exclaimed. He ran back to the basketball court where he'd left it. Jeff shook his head as he watched Bradley run away. Life's weird, he thought. He walked into the boys' bathroom and splashed his sweaty face with cold water. He had to hold the faucet down with one hand and splash his face with the other. Colleen Varigold walked in. He stared at her. She looked around, then screamed and ran outside. Jeff watched the door swing shut behind her. Chapter 34. Life was too weird for Jeff to return to class. Anytime you want to talk again, Carla had said, please feel free to come and see me, even if you just feel like getting out of class for a while. He hoped she had really meant it. He had a lot he wanted to say to her, beginning with, I'm sorry. He slowly walked to her office. He hoped she wasn't with somebody else. He knocked. Carla opened the door and smiled when she saw him. Hello, Jeff. He smiled. Hi, Carla. He stopped because he saw somebody else sitting at the round table. I believe you two know each other, said Carla. Jeff lowered his eyes. Hello, Colleen, he muttered. Colleen Varigold covered her face with her hands. You don't mind if Jeff joins us, do you, Colleen? Carla asked. Colleen shook her head with her hands still over her face. Jeff awkwardly sat down. Mrs. Ebel doesn't know I'm here, he said. I'll write you a note, said Carla. Colleen peeked out from between her fingers. I'm not supposed to be here either, she said. Carla turned to Colleen. So what's the big emergency? Can you say it in front of Jeff? He already knows, said Colleen. She looked at Jeff. You better not tell anybody. I won't, Jeff promised. Tell anybody what? Asked Carla. Colleen walked into the boys' bathroom, said Jeff. I was there washing my face. Jeff, Colleen exploded. You just promised you wouldn't tell. Oops, said Jeff. He blushed. It was only Carla. You were going to tell her anyway, weren't you? Colleen smiled at him. I didn't go there on purpose, she explained to Carla. It was an accident. I don't believe in accidents, said Carla. Colleen stared at her in amazement. She wondered how Carla knew she had gone in after Jeff on purpose. She turned to Jeff. I'm sorry for saying hello to you when you didn't like it. That's okay. Anyway, how was I supposed to know you didn't like it? You always said hello back. I know. I can't help it. Whenever anybody says hello to me, I always have to say hello back. He looked at the picture of the green monster with 6 hands hanging on the wall. If a big scary monster said hello, Jeff, I'd probably say hello back to it too. Colleen laughed. Well, what's wrong with that? Demanded Carla. If a monster says hello to you, you should say hello to it. If you don't, then I have to wonder which one of you is really the monster. Colleen frowned. She suddenly remembered that Bradley Chalkers had said hello to her at the beginning of the lunch period, and she had walked away without saying hello back. It made her feel terrible. You can say hello to me whenever you want, said Jeff. She smiled again. Hello, Jeff, she said. Hello, Colleen, said Jeff. I read somewhere, said Carla, that in Zen, the most important rule is that when one person says hello to you, you have to say hello back. What's Zen? Asked Colleen. A religion, answered Carla. She got a book from her bookcase. Here it is. She read aloud from Raise High the Roof Beam Carpenters by J.D. Selinger. In certain Zen monasteries, it's a cardinal rule that when one monk calls out hi to another monk, the latter must call back hi without thinking. Jeff should be a Zen monk, Colleen exclaimed with delight. Jeff laughed. I already say hello to anybody who says hello to me, he said proudly. Can girls be Zen monks too? Colleen asked. Why not? Asked Carla. Colleen laughed with delight. Then she said, Jeff, do you want to come to my birthday party next Saturday? Next Sunday? Yes, said Jeff. That's the second most important rule about being a Zen monk. Whenever another Zen monk invites you to a birthday party, you have to say yes. Colleen laughed again. You're the only boy so far, she said. I'll invite one more, but only one. I can't invite too many boys. Suddenly, she looked very serious. She knew what she had to do. Chapter 35. Before dinner, while it was still light, Bradley's father, bad leg and all, taught Bradley how to dribble. Bradley could hardly wait to show his friends. The next morning, when the bell rang for recess, everyone hurried outside, except Bradley. First, he had to put his paper neatly in his notebook. Then he had to mark his place in his book and put all his pencils in his pencil holder. Then he put everything away neatly in his desk. He rushed out the door. Hello, Bradley, said Colleen. He stopped cold. Colleen closed her eyes tightly, then opened them. With the determination of a Zen monk, she asked, Would you like to come to my birthday party on Sunday? Bradley stared at her. Jeff will be there, said Colleen. He's the only other boy. Everyone else will be girls. I would have invited you sooner, except, I just found out when it was. Bradley nodded his head until his mouth worked. Yes, he said. Good, said Colleen, then scooted away. Bradley stared after her, then turned around in a circle as he tried to remember which way he was going. Bradley, called Andy, hurry up, we need you. He ran to the basketball court. He forgot everything he had learned about dribbling. Is he coming? Asked Melinda. Colleen nodded. Lori stuck out her tongue and screamed. It'll be fun, said Melinda. Bradley's not the same as he was. I think he's gotten better. Oh, you can't come anymore, Melinda, said Colleen. Why not? She asked, obviously very hurt. Because they're coming and you beat them up. But they started it. Colleen stared at her, hands on her hips. She couldn't believe Melinda was being so unreasonable. I thought I was your best friend, said Melinda. You are, said Colleen, but they're boys. Oh, okay, you can come. But you better not cause any more trouble. I thought I was your best friend, said Lori. That night, Bradley lay in bed, too excited to sleep. He couldn't wait until tomorrow when he'd see Carla again. He had so much to share with her, and it was all because of her magic book. He turned on the light above his head and read aloud to Ronnie and Bartholomew. They laughed whenever he did. I just met Ace. He's my parents' lawyer. Guess what? He's crazier than my aunt and uncle put together. The first thing he said to me was, Do you like peanuts? They're okay, I answered. Good, he said. He gave me a peanut and I ate it. Do you want another peanut? He asked. I shrugged. So he gave me another peanut and I ate that one too. Big deal. You must really like peanuts a lot, he said. I told you he was crazy. I want you to remember that, he said. If anybody asks you, you really like peanuts a lot. Okay, I really like peanuts a lot, I said. Then he gave me 3 more peanuts. Eat these. I ate them. You just ate 3 peanuts in 5 seconds, he said. Can you believe it? He had timed me. Tell me he isn't crazy. He isn't crazy, laughed Ronnie. Why is he making such a big deal over peanuts? Asked Bartholomew. I don't know, said Bradley. There was a loud knock on his door when his father entered. It's past your bedtime, Bradley, he said. Okay, said Bradley. He reached for his light. Oh, you were reading, his father noticed. Well, that's all right then. You can stay up if you want to read. Bradley smiled. Once again, the magic book had kept him from getting into trouble. So what did the kids think of your dribbling? I forgot how, Bradley admitted. He hated to disappoint his father. I guess we need to practice more, said his father. Maybe this weekend I'll put up a backboard in the garage. He said good night and walked out of Bradley's room. Come on, I want to hear about the peanuts, said Bartholomew. Bradley continued reading. So then he asked me, are you good at math? Well, I don't like to brag, but math happens to be my best subject. Big deal. Okay, here's a math problem for you, he said. If you can eat 3 peanuts in 5 seconds, how long would it take you to eat 50,000 peanuts? I got out a pencil and paper and figured it out. About 23 hours and 9 minutes. That's less than a day, isn't it? He asked. Yes, I said there are 24 hours in a day. He's supposed to be my parents' lawyer, and he doesn't even know how many hours there are in a day. Remember that, he told me. If anybody asks you, you can eat 50,000 peanuts per day. I laughed. Who would ask me that? The police. The chapter ended there. Chapter 36. Bradley giggled as he walked to Carla's office for his regular scheduled appointment. He couldn't wait to tell her all the things that had happened to him. She'll be so happy, he thought. She was waiting for him in the hall, just outside her office, but before she could say anything, he beat her to it. "Hello, Carla," he said. "It's a pleasure to see you today. I appreciate coming to see you." She smiled. "The pleasure is mine," she replied. He laughed. He got a kick out of being polite. They shook hands, then went inside to the round table. She was wearing a dark blue shirt, almost black, with little white stars on it. She looked like nighttime. "So what's new?" she asked. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He didn't know why, but for some reason he didn't want to tell her. "What's new with you?" he asked. "With me?" asked Carla. "Nobody's ever asked me that before." "You're always asking me what's new," he said. "Why can't I ask you?" "You can," she replied. "You can ask me anything you want." "Let me see. What's new?" "I bought a new shower curtain today." "But that doesn't sound like very interesting news, does it?" "What color?" "Oh, sort of beige. I don't know. It doesn't really have a color." "That's a good color," said Bradley. "It sounds beautiful." "It's okay," said Carla. "What happened to your old shower curtain?" he asked. "It started getting a little rotten," said Carla. "Was it also beige?" No," said Carla. "I think it was yellow when it was new, but it was sort of a greenish brown when—" "Colleen invited me to her birthday party," he blurted. Then it all came pouring out of him. "Jeff's invited too. We'll be the only boys. Everyone else will be girls. Jeff and I are friends now. The other guys like me too. We play basketball together. At first I was afraid to shoot the ball, but everyone said, 'Shoot, Bradley, shoot.' So I shot and made it. Everyone was amazed. So was I. I still miss a lot more than I make, but I'm getting better. Everyone says so. My father taught me how to dribble. He's going to put a basket over the garage. At first they wanted to beat me up, but I said, 'Hello, Jeff,' and he said, 'Hello, Bradley,' and then Andy asked me if I wanted to play basketball. Then Colleen asked me to her birthday party, and I said yes, and she said good. She would have asked me sooner, except she just found out when she was born." Fortunately, Carla had heard most of it already, otherwise she wouldn't have understood a thing he said. "It's all because of you," said Bradley. "You did it, Bradley, not me." "It was your magic book." "What book? What's that got to do with— Bradley, what's wrong?" He was crying. One second he was beaming about her magic book, and the next he was sobbing and shaking all over. "Bradley?" He covered his face with his hands. Tears spilled out of his eyes. "What is it?" asked Carla. "What happened?" He shook his head. Carla rose from the table, got a box of tissues, and placed it in front of him. He pulled out a tissue, but didn't use it. "I've never been to a birthday party," he blubbered. Then he hiccuped. "Not a real one, where other kids are there." He hiccuped again, then blew his nose. "A long time ago, when I was in 3rd grade, I went to one, but then they made me go home because I sat on the cake." "Well, you're a lot smarter now than you were when you were in 3rd grade," said Carla. "But I don't remember what to do," Bradley whined. "Do I have to bring my own chair?" "Why would you have to bring your own chair?" "For musical chairs. That's why I sat on the cake. I got mad because there was no place else to sit." He sniffled. "Will there be ice cream?" "Don't you like ice cream?" "What if they don't have enough for me? What if they only have enough for everybody else? And what about Pin the Tail on the donkey?" "You don't have to bring your own donkey," said Carla. He laughed through his tears. But what if I stick it in a bad place?" "You want to know what I think?" asked Carla. "I think you're a little overwhelmed by all that has happened to you. It scared you. You think you're Cinderella." "Cinderella?" he repeated and laughed again. "You're Cinderella, and you've just been invited to the ball, and now you're afraid that right in the middle of Colleen's birthday party, everything will suddenly turn into a pumpkin." He wiped his eyes on his tissue. "You're afraid all the good things that happen will suddenly disappear. You're afraid everyone will suddenly stop liking you. But this isn't a fairy tale, Bradley. Your friends like you for who you are. My book wasn't magic. The magic is in you." "Do I have to bring her a present?" he asked. "You don't have to do anything," said Carla, "but it's a nice thing to do, don't you think? Carlene invited her to a birthday party because she likes you, and you give her a present because you like her and because you want to help celebrate her birthday." "What should I get her? Should I get her a doll? Is that what girls like?" "I don't know. Everyone likes different things. Give her something you like. If you like it, then she probably will too. Give her a gift from the heart." "How about a shower curtain?" he asked. "If it comes from the heart," said Carla. He smiled. When it was time for him to return to class, Carla said, "I enjoyed your visit very much. Thank you for sharing so much with me." "The pleasure was mine," he replied. He had been waiting to say that. Chapter 37. The meeting between Carla Davis and the Concerned Parents Organization was held after school in Room 8, a second-grade classroom. Carla sat in her chair that was too small for her and faced the parents. She crossed her ankles and folded her hands on her lap. The 5 members of the school board sat behind her. The principal sat next to her at the teacher's desk. Bradley's mother wasn't there. She was out with Bradley shopping for Colleen's birthday present. Since she didn't have any complaints, she didn't come to the meeting. The only parents who came were those who had complaints. "I'd like to know what we need a counselor for," asked a father. "Kids have enough counseling. What they need is more discipline. If they're bad, they should be punished." The other parents clapped their hands. "We need to get back to basics," said a woman. "Reading, writing, and arithmetic, and of course, computers." Her husband had a chart that showed that if the counselor was fired, there would be enough money to put a computer in every classroom. Everyone got very excited about that idea. They all loved computers. "No one is being fired," said the principal. "The purpose of this meeting is to give you a chance to ask Miss Davis questions." "She told my son it was good to fail," shouted a woman standing under a poster of an octopus. "She told him grades didn't matter." "I never said it was good to fail," Carla calmly replied. "I simply tried to help him relax. Children learn better when they're not under pressure. They do better when they can enjoy school." "My son doesn't go to school to have a good time," said the woman. He has to get good grades so he can get into a good college." The principal reminded the parents that Miss Davis wouldn't see any of their children without their permission. "But why should our tax dollars pay for her to counsel other people's children?" one of the mothers complained. Several other parents agreed. A woman with red hair stood up. "My daughter came home with one of those forms for us to sign, and we refused to sign it. We didn't want her seeing the counselor. We tried to give her all the counseling she needs at home, but then we found out the counselor's been talking to her anyway." "What's your daughter's name?" asked the principal. "Colleen Verigold." Carla admitted that she had seen Colleen without her parents' permission. "Colleen came into my office very upset and said she had to talk to me. She said it was an emergency." "What kind of emergency?" asked the school board president. "It was something very personal," said Carla. "But what was it?" asked the school board president. "I'm sorry," said Carla. "I never repeat anything a child tells me." She knew Colleen wouldn't want everybody to know she had gone into the boys' bathroom. "You're not supposed to see a child without her parents' permission," said the school board president. "Now, if it was an emergency, then you might have been justified, but we have to know the nature of the emergency." "I'm sorry," said Carla. "You can tell me," said Mrs. Verigold. "I'm her mother. If there was an emergency, don't you think I should know about it?" "Ask Colleen. If she wants to tell you, she will. I can't break my promise to her." "But Colleen's just a child," said a member of the school board. "You don't have to keep promises to children." "I do," said Carla. "She's been trying to make her change religion," said Colleen's mother. "Colleen came home from school and announced she didn't want to be Catholic anymore. She wants to be a Zen monk." Carla laughed, though she knew that was a mistake. She tried to explain about saying hello back to someone who says hello to you, but nobody seemed to understand what that had to do with being a Zen monk. You're not allowed to teach religion in public school," said the president of the school board, "and you weren't even supposed to talk to her child in the first place." He apologized to Colleen's mother and assured her it wouldn't happen again. A woman in the front row raised her hand. "I never had a counselor when I went to school," she said. "I don't understand what they do exactly." "Why don't you explain to the parents what you do and how you help different children?" the principal suggested. "Mostly I just talk with them," said Carla. "I listen to their problems, but I never tell them what to do. I try to help them learn to think for themselves." "But isn't that what school is for?" asked the woman. "To tell kids what to think?" "I believe it's more important to teach them how to think instead of what to think," said Carla. "But if they do something bad, don't you tell them it's wrong?" asked the man sitting next to her. "No," said Carla. "I think it's much better if they figure that out for themselves." "What if there was a boy who bit his teacher?" asked a father. "What?" Carla exclaimed. "Wouldn't you tell him not to bite her?" he asked. "No, I'd talk to him about it and try to find out why he bit her, but—" "What if he keeps on biting her?" asked the man. "What if every day he sneaks up behind her and bites her on her butt? Then what would you do?" "This is getting ridiculous," said Carla. "Tell him what you do," said the principal. Carla sighed. "I'd try to help the boy understand the reason he wants to bite his teacher, and then help him reach the conclusion that he shouldn't do it. How long would that take? Asked a woman. I don't know. A month? Possibly. And meanwhile he keeps biting his teacher, said the first man. She could get seriously hurt. She could die, said another man. How would you feel then? What if the kid had rabies? Someone else shouted. Don't you think he should get a rabies shot? I bet you'd feel differently if he bit you on your butt, someone called from the back of the room. Everyone began talking at once. What if he bit you? You'd punish him then, wouldn't you? Then you wouldn't wait for him to think for himself, would you? Not if he bit you. What if he did? What if he bit you? Carla uncrossed her ankles, then crossed them the other way. As she looked at the angry group of parents, she had the horrible feeling that they all wanted to bite her butt.